So pleased to be joined today by a member of the Blackpool Combat Club, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion from All Elite Wrestling. It's Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler, welcome to Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations.
Oh, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Excellent, excellent. We'll start with what you've got imminently coming up. You've got what should be a heck of a technical spectacle defending the Pure Championship against the talented Daniel Garcia at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view. What do you thinking that match is going to be like?
I think it's going to be a very fun one. Daniel Garcia and I have only wrestled in a singles match one time before. It was on the Independence. We went for an hour-long draw. So I think this will be a really fun way for us to kind of show a different side than what we showed in Blood and Guts. You know, we've had the violent physical brawls, and that's not to say that this won't be violent and physical, but it'll be within a very strict set of rules so where we can really find out who the best pure professional wrestler is. So I'm very excited for that match, and I think it'll be a different challenge. And I think for some of the AEW fans who maybe haven't seen a Ring of Honor Pure Rules match before, I think it'll bring something different to the table. So I'm excited to have this opportunity.
How long ago was that match that you had with Garcia? I saw you posted I think the link was out there from Independent Wrestling TV when you guys did it.
It was about a year ago. I want to say it was last August. We were actually both already wrestling for AEW at the time, but we still had this match on the Independence. But yeah, it was about a year ago.
And I don't think you could have two more different matches than the Blood and Guts and then the ROH Pure Rules to go in the complete other direction. How have those Pure Rules matches been for you? It seems like it's an interesting adjustment from a storytelling perspective and just what you're going to be able to do in there and the story you're able to tell.
Yeah, I really enjoy Pure Rules matches. It's a very different challenge for me. I think that we're kind of in a day and age of pro wrestling where pretty much anything goes, and I think that that's awesome, and I think it's a lot of fun. But I think that it also creates this opportunity for us to have a very different kind of wrestling when we have these Pure Rules matches and we have these very strict rules. Like you said, there's no more different two kinds of matches than a Blood and Guts cage match where we're hitting each other with chairs, falling on thumbtacks and giant swings on the top of the cage, and then a Pure Rules match where 2 punches to the face will get you disqualified. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything quite like that in terms of a challenge as a performer, but I really like to use the rules to my advantage. You have opportunities to do things that you can't do in other wrestling matches. Like, for example, if you've exhausted all your rope breaks, you can submit someone in the ropes, so that offers like different opportunities for like rope hung submissions that would normally be illegal. You can use them to get the finish. So very excited for the challenge. I've been trying to adjust my game in the Pure Rules matches I've had so far on Dark, and I'm really excited for how that's going. So hopefully me and Garcia will be able to put together a classic.
Like you said, too, though, using the rules to your advantage. I always like it in wrestling. A lot of people don't because, like you said, sometimes wrestling is anything goes and you don't totally know what the restrictions or the certain kind of ambiance of a different company is. But in this case, it's like you're sort of educating the crowd even on, okay, this is what the scenario for this is. I always love in Japan when it's like the 19 count on the 20 and somebody jumps back in the ring. Like, you really have to educate the fans on what the rules are and then also show them what breaking them looks like maybe within the context of that match too. Do you like being able to do that, kind of make it sort of an educational experience for the fans?
Yeah, I really do enjoy that. I think it's very important for the fans to kind of understand the rules of what we're doing, because there are very specific things. Like you said, like in Japan, they do a 20 count. Well, in Ring of Honor, we also do a 20 count. So there will be a 20 count on the floor for the Pure Championship. And then, yeah, just kind of educating the fans on different rules, like what happens if I run out of rope breaks. For example, I was in, I believe, an ankle lock I was in a submission from Josh Woods, and he had me, and I was out of rope breaks, so I was trying to crawl out of the ring to escape. Like, you have to do different things, because once you've exhausted that very easy escape that most people take for granted, because in most matches it's just allowed. So being able to sort of play off of that, like, I have to escape the ring now to get out of the hold, or different little things like Mark Sterling tripped me in my Pure Rules match with Tony Nese, and that's a very big deal in Pure Rules. If you're caught interfering, it's a very big penalty. So it was an automatic disqualification as well. So it's definitely you have to educate the fans on the rules. But I've been enjoying it. I really do enjoy this niche of being able to have kind of my own. Feels like my own rule set, like my own division that I rule over. So I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, I mean, you got the belt. It is your division to rule over.
Yeah.
you seem like you're somebody who, it's cliche, but student of the game. What's kind of the vibe been like at those the ROH shows and the ROH brand now for you?
The Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. But the first Ring of Honor pay-per-view was really nice to get to, because it felt like it was kind of everyone coming together in this one place. Like, it felt like friends that I hadn't seen for years, like from the independents, friends that I hadn't seen in years for Ring of Honor, and then like all the people from AEW that were there. It was a really cool, like, it almost felt like a reunion, but now I think that it was also, now we're moving on to the next chapter. So I'm really excited to see where it goes from here on out, to kind of get more of a feel of where Ring of Honor is going to be in the future. But I also think that's up for us to define, to see how things go at this upcoming pay-per-view, and to see how we're really able to bring Ring of Honor and what it is in the future forward. I think we have to respect the legacy, obviously, of what the company has been, but now it's time for people like myself to bring it forward and kind of define what Ring of Honor is going to be in the future.
Definitely. And I was thinking yesterday, I think I went to my first Ring of Honor show in 2002 or 2003, maybe. So
where was it?
It was at the Rexplex in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
Actually, maybe that was 04. It was 2004. It was WrestleMania 20 weekend, and it was CM Punk against AJ Styles with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as the referee.
Nice.
So
I like that in those matches, like, Ricky would do like a little bit more.
He's an excellent referee.
Do a little bit more every time. Yeah, he is.
I think he actually did arm drag Punk to a very big reaction. It was also cool because he came out to the old serious Alan Parsons Project theme that he used to come out to, the Chicago Bulls walkout song. And then also Gary Michael Capetta was the ring announcer. So it was the old WCW Ricky the Dragon Steamboat introduction. But what my point with that was just it does seem with this rebrand that it is true to the brand of Ring of Honor. Like, a Ring of Honor fan is going to find things that they will appreciate on this new reboot, so to speak. So let's talk a little bit about the way you broke into wrestling. I don't really know it. Were you a lifelong fan? Can you kind of explain, like, kind of how you got involved in pro wrestling?
Yeah, so I was always a lifelong fan. I always loved wrestling. When I was a kid, I was at my cousin's house in Philadelphia, and they showed me a wrestling video game, and I just thought it was a video game. Like, I didn't know that real people did this. I was really young. I was like 4 or 5. And then later on, they're like, no, like, real people do this. And then they showed me wrestling on TV, and from there on, I was hooked. So then I started training at a local school near where I was living when I was 16, and then sort of moved into Philadelphia more full-time. And then I was training at the CZW school, and then at the Chikara school for a while. So that's how I got my start. At the Chikara school is where I met Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, a lot of those guys that would really help me in AEW. But yeah, that's how I got my start.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor, because they were always billed as kind of like your mentors when you came in with the best friends, and it sounds like they legitimately are your mentors. Yeah. What's that relationship been like with them?
Yeah, they've always been really good to me. So when I came up to train at the CZW school and the Chikara school, one of the other guys that was leading me around was Drew Gulak. So then once he kind of once he moved away, that's when Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor really took care of me. They would take me around to shows and stuff. I would drive them around a lot. We'd go to training at the school. They would always really take care of me. There was a point that I think has been mentioned a few times in interviews where I was like in between places. They let me sleep on their couch for a while. So they've always really looked out for me in and out of the ring. It was funny because when I first made my debut for AEW, it was Orange Cassidy who called to tell me, and I was hanging out with Chuck Taylor. So it was, it's always intertwined. It's always tied in. But yeah, those guys have always really looked out for me, and now I'm kind of doing my own thing, but they'll always hold a special place in my heart.
I'm hoping that all of wrestling begins to understand just exactly how good Orange Cassidy is. I think they might have a little bit better of an idea after Forbidden Door in the match with Will Ospreay. Like, do you think all of wrestling gets it yet? that this guy's actually outstanding?
I don't know. I think that most people do by now, but I'm always like, all right, now that's the match. Like I remember he had a match on the Independents where I was like, all right, that's the coming out party. Now everyone knows how great he is. And then it was still a fight. And then I was like, all right. And then he had like the match with Pocket Revolution. And it's like, all right, there it is. Like that's the one. Now everyone will stop. No more detractors. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess he still hasn't proven it to everyone. But no, I think Orange Cassidy's incredible at what he does. And I think that hopefully people are recognizing it. I think that having the time off might have rejuvenated him as well. So I think we're going to see a very impressive Orange Cassidy going forward.
What's funny to me is when people complain about him to me and complain about the persona or whatever. And I'm like, you do realize that like everything he's doing is in-ring psychology that's leading to something else in the match. So if you're actually really paying attention, it's not just a guy sticking his hands in his pockets. Like everything has a meaning and a purpose for where he's going. So
it's all strategy.
Yeah, it's Jake the Snake. If you really want to annoy somebody, compare it with Jake the Snake. How did you end up connecting with AEW? You touched on it a little bit. You were, obviously Orange Cassidy giving you a call, but your role is just kept increasing as time has gone by. I know you ended up filling in for Trent when he was out injured also. But just how did this all evolve, getting involved there?
I think that Tony became aware of me while they were doing a press tour for AEW Grand Slam, the first Arthur Ashe event. So that was the first time like he kind of knew who I was, and then I was brought down to Jacksonville. I was a part of like the last Daily's Place tapings. So they would tape Dark on Tuesday and then like Dynamite's on Wednesday. And I was a part of like that last little loop in Jacksonville before everything started going back on the road. So I was brought down for that after Tony kind of saw a couple of my matches. He saw one I had with MJF on the Independents a long time ago. And then he saw one I'd had more recently in New Japan Strong. So then as a result of that, I got brought down. I went to Jacksonville. I had 2 matches. I had one with Carl Anderson and then one with Angelico. 3 matches. I also had one with Ryan Nemeth as well. So we had those 3 matches, and then after that, we were off and running. Next week, I was on the road.
But it just seems like each opportunity that you have has led to something else. Now you're with the Blackpool Combat Club. What kind of things does a young wrestler learn from his lordship, William Regal? It seems pretty cool to be chosen as kind of the Jedi in training with Brian and Claudio and Moxley, and then it's you. So what's that scenario been like? How is it helping you?
Being in the Blackpool Combat Club has just helped me immensely. Being able to get the mentorship from all of those guys has been awesome. Like the whole time I was in Japan, I was like texting Brian and Moxley. I get to the building early and I work out with Regal and we work on different things. He always says it's a mindset. You always have to remember that you're a killer. We're out there to leave scars on people. We're out there to leave our mark. So you can't forget that at any point. And that's just been drilled into my head for months and months. So it's been really wonderful to have that kind of feedback from them as well. Also, like as soon as the match is done, I walk to the back. Someone's usually waving me over, one of the 3, to kind of bring me into the corner and be like, all right, you did this well, this well, this well. But more importantly, you did this wrong, and this wrong. So I think that I'm only going to continue to grow as a wrestler with just these incredible mentors. I think I've been lucky to have good mentors in the past. But the more you can take from everyone, the more that you can learn from people. And I think that this is a completely different side. So this will be just adding more and more elements to my game that people probably weren't expecting.
And having read about Regal and having read some interviews with him and stuff too, I have a feeling that he was probably already very well aware of you and probably knew things about your body of work that you probably didn't realize he might have known. Was he how much on his radar were you already before you guys got together?
Yeah, before we connected in AEW, I'd met Mr. Regal a few other times, just like on the Independents. I'd actually done a few camps that he had run on the Independents as well. So like we had met before. And then, I actually had a tryout with WWE. So we were he was still there, and we connected then. We met there. I think I left a good impression, but things kind of went a different way. I wound up with AEW. I'm very, very grateful I did. And then he wound up coming over as well. So we had met each other. We were familiar with each other, but I don't think there was any expectation when he first came in that this would be the direction that we would go, that he would now be my mentor and that we would be doing all this training and we would be talking all the time and he would be helping me with all this stuff. I don't know if that's necessarily where we thought it would go, but we were definitely familiar with each other. And I like to think that, obviously, of course, he's a legend. I have the utmost respect for him, but I like to think that he knew who I was and was at least familiar.
Yeah, I didn't think it was an accident either. I think it was during the Bryan and Moxley when they were having the lead up to their match where they were talking about some of the young talent, and your name was one of them, and actually Daniel Garcia's name was one of them too, in terms of people we need to kind of bring along to be the next generation of guys. So that had to be pretty cool to hear that, even if it didn't end up leading to anything, and it obviously did. But what was that like to hear them, using your name within that story?
Yeah, it was right after my second match with Moxley, actually, is
right.
when that happened. So I was walking back through the curtain a little bit beat up. And then I kind of heard my name, and then I heard a little bit of a reaction. It's like, oh, okay, I wasn't entirely sure what the context was until I watched it back after. I was like, oh, I heard my name, heard some kind of reaction. All right, that's cool. And then when I saw what the context was, I was like, oh, wow, this would be really cool. This would be something. So just the fact that it was hypothetically thrown out in the universe, I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I can hold on to that for a while. Now, the fact that we did it, and here we are, and the Blackpool Combat Club is the thing, and I'm a part of it and getting to learn is just surreal to me. But being able to do it has been just an incredible opportunity.
You mentioned before going over to Japan, you recently competed in the Best of the Super Junior. What did you take away from that experience, and kind of what's the culture like there for wrestling? What can you learn?
Oh, I loved going over for Best of the Super Juniors. It was on before I'll get to the wrestling, but just like on a personal level, I'm half Japanese. My mother, born and raised in Japan, only moved to America after she married my dad. So just kind of being able to go over there and reconnect with that culture was awesome. I've lived my whole life here in America, so I've never really got to experience for an extended period of time other than one other short wrestling tour I did. So being able to just go around, see the country was awesome. In terms of wrestling, there's so much to learn. First of all, it's a super busy schedule, especially for a singles tournament like that. I want to say it was 9 singles matches over the course of like 2 weeks. So it was very intense. We only had the entire tour was 3 weeks, and we only had 3 days off where we weren't on a bus traveling somewhere. So it was a really, really rough, intense schedule. And just when you're put into that kind of a situation, all your skills get sharpened. So just being able to adapt to different situations quickly, different opponents that you're not expecting, different reactions from the crowd that you're maybe not expecting as well. They can't vocally cheer there right now, so it's all clapping based. So just being able to adjust to that, just a completely different environment. But seeing the respect and appreciation that the Japanese fans have for wrestling was also really awesome as well. Like I said, they can't show it in the same way because they can't verbally cheer. Being able to see that was still great.
And then too, I was wondering too, is you mentioned your family. What do they think about you going over to Japan and wrestling? Were any of them wrestling fans prior?
Not at all. I think that the last wrestling before I came to AEW, the last wrestling my mom watched was my grandfather bought the Inoki Ali fight.
Oh.
And she said that's the last pro wrestling that she watched. But they were very excited that I was going over to Japan. I think it really means a lot to them. Unfortunately, so I wasn't able to see my uncle this time. I usually, whenever I've gone over to Japan, I get to visit family. He was unfortunately in bad health. I didn't get to visit this time, but he was so excited. He was following along the whole time, watching on New Japan World. So it's really cool that pro wrestling is kind of like this universal thing that was able to kind of bring everyone together and give us something to rally behind. So it was really cool.
You mentioned the lack of cheering and booing in Japan right now, and I know that's really related to the COVID-19 pandemic. But even when there was, it's a different type of audience anyway in Japan in terms of how they react and what you have to play off of. I think too.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just a different way that they're watching. It's a lot more respectful, a lot more appreciative of what's happening in the ring. I think it's a lot less of. I think in American wrestling, you pick your guy, and that's who you're standing behind. You pick whoever you want to win the match, and then you cheer for them to no end. I think that there's a lot more appreciation of the art and the talent that goes into like the actual sport of wrestling. So I think that in Japan, they're really watching more for the match and less for the individuals.
I thought that the 6-man tag team match that you were in Forbidden Door was just outstanding. Was that as fun to participate for you as it was for me to watch it?
It was so much fun. So as much as I was talking about what a great time I had in Japan, this was one of the first few times that I've had like a full arena like that for a match. That was just screaming. There was a huge arena, sold out. First time, like one of the first times since I'd gotten back from Japan, being able to just hear the crowd. I was having so much fun. It was such a blast. That whole pay-per-view was incredible. I really think that we over-delivered on expectations, so I hope that everyone enjoyed it. But yeah, I was having such a blast. Just to be in there with, like, what a cast of characters. Like, imagine telling, I don't know, even like 2 years ago, like, all right, so this match is going to happen. Like Eddie Kingston, Shota Umino, Wheeler Yuta versus Sammy Guevara, Minoru Suzuki, Chris Jericho. It's insane. That's insane. So I was having a blast.
Yeah, you're right. It was such a unique mix of people, but it worked perfectly. And the funny thing about it is I thought one of the ones that shined the most was the guy I knew the least about, which was Umino, who I thought looked fantastic.
Yeah, Umino's incredible. Yeah, he's absolutely awesome. Did you notice he carries Moxley's ring jacket to the ring?
I don't think I did notice that.
Yeah, Moxley gave it to him in Japan, so he carries it to the ring. Yeah.
I love that there's that whole story there too with him and Jericho and his father and everything, because it all ties together, and it's good, and he delivered too, and it was just an outstanding match. I could not have enjoyed that anymore.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to move to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be sort of 3 quick questions and your responses to them. So, who are 3 wrestlers in history that you would love to have a match with? Non-active.
Non-active.
Well, I mean, I know that's always tricky in wrestling because wrestlers don't really retire too, but
right. Let's say Ricky Steamboat. He was always one of my favorites. Hayabusa.
Interesting.
I think that would be one I would really like. I'm trying to think of someone really out of left field for this last one. Someone really bizarre. Oh, this isn't really bizarre, but Johnny Saint. I'd really like to have one with Johnny Saint. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Those would all be 3 very unique matches. Who would be the heel in Wheeler Yuta versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat?
I think it's got to be me, right?
I think it almost has to be.
It has to be. Yeah.
I've never seen it the other way, but
right, exactly.
Maybe it would be good the other way. I don't know.
Who knows?
Because you're kind of like that Steamboat style of guy too. At least to me, I don't know if you agree with that, but
I mean, I'll take it as a compliment because he's always been a big inspiration.
And on the flip side of this, current wrestlers that you haven't wrestled that you think you'd have good matches with. 3.
Current wrestlers I haven't wrestled. I think I'm going to go with easier answers, but all Jericho Appreciation Society. I think Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and then I guess we have had a match, but this will be our first Pure Rules match, Daniel Garcia. I think we're going to have a lot of fun in those matches, and I'm really excited to hopefully be able to wrestle all of those guys, but definitely Garcia.
And the last question on the 3 count, is there any origin story on the ring name Wheeler Yuta?
So originally I just wanted my name to be Yuta, like just one name, all caps. So that was my. I was actually speaking with Drew Gulak, who was helping train me at the time, and he gave me the first name Wheeler. So that's where it came about. We decided I needed some kind of first name, so that's what it wound up being.
Was there any history?
And now I love it. Now I think it's a very interesting, unique name, and I'm glad that I have it. But at first, I wasn't sold. I just wanted that all one name thing.
Was there any specific reason why Yuta?
Yuta was a Japanese name that I always really liked. It can mean different things depending on which kanji you pick. The one I picked was very courageous. So if you write it out, that's what it means. But yeah, that was where that name came from for me.
And did Gulak explain why he liked Wheeler?
Never did. He said it sounded unique.
When I first heard it, the first thing I thought of was Captain Planet. The character of Captain Planet was, I think, Wheeler.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, that's the only other time. And also, I think FTR is also Wheeler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. Wheeler Yuta, you're going to be wrestling Daniel Garcia at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor coming up. All the best to you moving forward. Really enjoyed this conversation today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a blast.